An 8-bit Rocket Studios production.
Into the vertical blank.
Hi, this is 8-Bit Jeff here, and we are continuing our USA Atari ST released games. We've been calling these the Blue Box games. While this game is not considered an official Blue Box release, and may not even have been officially released at all, it is a very well-crafted, complete game conversion. The publisher was Atari US. The developer was a Hungarian company called Andromeda. The year, 1986, and of course, it was an arcade conversion. The reviews. It was not easy to find official reviews for this release. I did find some online that were basically from now. Atari Mania's users give it a 7.5 out of 10. Atari Legend said, "I love this game." Atari User Magazine, which is a new Atari user magazine, and a review by Kieran Hawken, gave it a 9 out of 10. Zogging Hell gave it a 5 out of 10. That's the aberration here. We at the Vertical Blank give it a 9 out of 10. The game is based on an Atari-developed arcade game by Ed Logg from 1982. There was an Atari 8-bit and Atari 2600 version released in 1984. There was also an unreleased Atari 5200 version from 1984. In 1986, the Atari ST version was developed, and it's still debatable whether it was actually released. In 1988, there was an NES version. Those are the 1980s versions. There are also various 90s and 2000 re-releases and ports for modern consoles and handhelds. The Game Boy and Game Boy Advance are good examples, as well as compilations on all of the modern consoles. So what is Millipede? Millipede is a single-screen shooter, the sister to Centipede, another arcade game by Atari, but with many more creepy, crawly bugs to remove from your garden. You are supposedly a garden gnome at the bottom of the screen who has relatively free movement using a trackball or joystick on the Atari ST version across the bottom of the screen and the first 20 to 25% of the vertical bottom of the screen. Your single goal is to pretty much blow everything up and not get hit. This was a weird research project, as there's very, very little information available on the release for the Atari ST. In fact, it appears this may not have been released at all, or maybe it was. It might have been a promo pack-in, or maybe it was sold in very few quantities. I did see one site listed as unreleased. I was not able to find an .st, .msa, or .stx of this file, or even an old dumped PRG file. But when looking at the Peter Putnick version, I found some notes that mentioned he used an original image. That's interesting. I also examined the cracked and packed version on an automation disk with a sector editor. The sector editor said that it was a was-not-was crack that uses the Bob B.O.B. compactor. Those were pretty much used in releases we found in the USA. It's also interesting to note that the 8-bit chip or Peter Putnick version has a BMP file that usually is used to show the original packaging from the game on load. But the picture that Peter shows looks like it's from the Atari 800 or the Atari 2600 version, quite possibly from the 5200 version that was never released, but not necessarily an ST release. Atari Mania also lists that there was no official UK release for this game. I went and looked for test strings in the sector editor on both versions and found nothing significant embedded in the code. I used this wonderful site called hext.it to do this. I was also looking for a programmer's name of some type and found nothing. All the Atari games ported by Andromeda a Hungarian software developer, lacked basic developer information. But I did find a port of World Karate Championship done by Andromeda for Epix that had Istvan Sersi as the ST developer. He seems like a really good developer, so he might have had something to do with this game. But it's kind of a stretch to assume he did. I want to send out special thanks to everyone in our Twitter feed who helped me find reviews and any scarce info on this game, especially Kieran Hawken, Atari Mania, Peter Fletcher, Atari Legend, Atari Crypt, among others. Thank you very much for your help. I find Millipede for the Atari ST to be very colorful and nicely crafted. It starts unusually slow for the first few levels, but the speed does ramp up. So the slow is not due to any poor programming, just a long ease in the difficulty curve. I did find a comparison video of all the versions that were released. This comparison video has the ST as the third best version, better than the Game Boy, Atari 2600, Atari 8-bit, and Atari 5200 versions, but not as good as the Game Boy Advanced or NES versions. I do not concur. I actually find the Atari ST version to be the leader of the pack after playing all of these versions. Okay, on to the game. Alright, here I am, getting ready to boot up the game on my trusty PAL UK Atari STE with 4 megs. I'm booting up the 8-bit chip Peter Pucknick version that's been adapted for the hard drive and will run on STs, STEs, Falcons, and TT machines. This game does not use the mouse. It uses joystick. I just love the colorful sprites in this game. A little slow to start out, but it gets faster and harder. It uses the joystick, which doesn't give you precise control. Now, I didn't use the cheat, the trainer, so this may be the game's maybe a little shorter than I want. I want to show the faster levels, so I may have to just... Lucky I got that extra, because I need 20 grand to get another extra, basically. A lot of stuff going on this screen, and it's not slowing down because of the amount of stuff that's moving. So a good Atari ST programmer, even though it may look slow, it's not. And that's... okay, I gotta know. I guess you get an extra every 10,000, which is good, because I needed it, but it's not 20. But I'm certainly skating on thin ice here. Alright, now since I got to 50,000, I think I can start at 60,000 if I want to. Let's start there, just play a little bit more, show the faster, higher levels of this game. Okay, start at 60. Again, beautiful sprites. Beautiful graphic design, and we don't know who did it. We know Andromeda did it. We don't know who. Yet. I may yet be able to find out who was at Andromeda. It's probably the same people that did World Karate Championship. I'm just guessing at that, though. That weird green bug. 100,000's coming up quick. Oh, now it gets to the difficulty that I have with arcade Millipede, basically. So at 120,000, it's about as hard as the arcade version. Let's just try just a little bit more. I gotta say, this is a really fun game. I know it's Millipede. Actually like the difficulty ramp in the ST version better than the arcade version. Although it does hurt my thumb holding down this fire button. There's that worm over there I gotta get, or so. Oh, I can't get it now. This little green guy at the bottom, he's really cool looking. Now, they're all bugs, and I personally hate bugs, so don't mind shooting them. That dude. My hand is killing me. So this could be, this will be the last game, of course. Let's hit one of these DDTs just for fun. Up there. Oh, that's it. Game over. Well, that is Millipede by Atari US for the Atari ST. A really good, colorful, beautifully crafted conversion. And I don't know why you can't find an official release anywhere. There's no explanation why. But it looks like everybody says it was released in the US. The only thing I can think of is quite possibly it was released as a game pack or something like that. But I can't find any documentation, any boxes, any physical discs. So if someone has something, just send me a picture. I just want to know that it actually was released. In fact, we know there's a version that was released. It's here. Anyway, until next time, we still have more Blue Box or just Atari US released games for the Atari ST. Until next time, into the vertical blank.
Next frame calculated. Prepare to write new data. V blank ending.
An 8-Bit Rocket Studios production.